Okay, welcome to the Exhorter podcast, where we aim to stir up love and good works through bite-sized biblical discussion. This week, we have had a guest with us, Kris Emerson from Lindale Church of Christ in Texas. Also, the host of the Excel Still More podcast. ESM, I'm seeing you shorten it these days on things.
There's too many Microsoft Office results.
Excel.
Type in Excel.
Okay, that makes sense. We brought you out here to do a Clovis Youth Forum and to teach to a bunch of kids, and we've had a great time of it. We decided we'd take some time to podcast a little bit too. This will be kind of one of two episodes. This can be the Talking Shop episode. I have admired, Kris, your efforts and the podcast for a long time. I think Melissa, my sister, turned me onto it probably like 6 years ago, because you've been doing it 7 years now?
It'll be,
yeah. So we're about 3 years into our podcast, almost about 90 episodes, and we've kind of shifted a little bit and kind of softened up over the time. And you're the first person that we've actually, I can talk to, and we've actually been able to talk to about kind of a meta or about behind the scenes of the podcast that actually does podcasting as well.
It's sort of like the parable of the sower and the seeds. It's the parable about parables that you don't understand this. How will you understand any other parables? So it's like the podcast about podcasts today. Yeah,
and if that's cool with you guys, I just have some questions here, and just feel free to toss them out as we have them.
I think Nate and I will have minimal contributions to this one right now.
You guys always pipe in, but my first
I've been on 7 episodes. I know something about podcasting.
He came into a later season. He wasn't an original 3.
Yeah, so. I wasn't invited originally. I'm still the replacement.
Oh no, he's
but everybody liked BJ Honeycutt more than Trapper John on MASH. So
did we?
Was that a slam against Paul? I didn't mean that. Paul, if you're listening, I'm sorry.
Paul, we love you. Hey, you know what? He has had ample time. I have 4 mics here, and he'll come back. Kris, did you ever imagine the podcast would reach so many people in general?
I did not. It was February, January of 2019, and a buddy had just said, "Hey, why don't you record something that's not worship, not sermon, that bridges together some good self-help stuff that works with the scripture?" And I sat down on the floor of my closet and recorded 3 episodes. I did a little bit of research. I tried to get a good launch going, so I figured out the idea of having 3 and how to leverage your social media to try to get some attention. So I was trying, but I thought it would just be among our brothers and sisters in Christ, a few, but it had a good first year, and then COVID was the next year, and that was a game changer as far as just people looking for access to content, and it became more than I thought, and it's led to a really cool relationship. So it's been nice.
So your impetus for actually hitting record the first time was someone dared you to? No, someone basically thought it would be a good idea, and you. But did you have any aptitude or focus about that before? Because
not really. I'd spent about a year just reading some books, just different things. And I noticed that, for instance, in a lot of really great modern self-help books, there's a ton said about gratitude and how gratitude and thankfulness are the most important elements to whatever, but they never mention God. And I'm thinking, that's so weird. Like, who are you grateful to? Like your Thanksgiving
gratitude is good for you.
Yeah.
But aside from God, it's like, thank you, blank.
Yeah, which sounds so strange and is missing out on ultimate power. And so that was kind of rolling around my head a little bit, frustration with some of what I was seeing. And like I said, a friend, we weren't even that close at the time. I just basically said, if you can find me a jingle, I'll start something. And like the next week, he sent me the little whatever.
Is it the same one that's still
same one forever? Yeah, I was like, okay. And then I just thought, I just want to bridge it. Episode 1 was called Just Get Better, which I'm not particularly proud of anymore. It's like just get closer to Jesus now. But in the early days, it was just get better. And I almost called the show Just Get Better and made episode 1 Excel Still More. And I'm really glad about that.
Yeah.
I've changed,
Well, that's another thing. We were talking about the other day, how there have been certain podcasts you might put out there, and then maybe a year or 2 or some time goes by, and you might look back at that and go, I see it slightly different. How do you feel? This is kind of an interesting thing. In the last 10 to 20 years, more preachers are putting their information out there digitally on YouTube and in podcasts and things, and they kind of live there forever until you guys, I guess you could always go and take it down or re-edit it. But has it changed your perspective of of the podcast? Yeah. Were there learnings, throughout that? Has it changed your delivery and the message at all?
I'm sure it has. I mean, I do podcasts like, I make me think of like Seinfeld or something, just like everyday life. My podcast, or this is what I'm experiencing this week. This is what I think is interesting. So it's me, each week it's not planned or scheduled. It's just, here's my life. And I've been through a lot like you guys in the last 6.5 years, a lot of really interesting things. And so I'm sure my angst or joy or frustration or where I was, that's always going to be in there. And you have to be, people have been great about getting that I'm just sharing my life with you. Yeah. So that's what it's going to be. But I've also changed on things. I did Nehemiah the other night with the young people. And I've got an episode, I think in the first couple of years, or certainly a sermon where I applied, I'm Nehemiah and I'm going to use it to make my life better. And then a few years ago, I did a podcast. And I'm like, I'm still Nehemiah, except I'm going to rally up all you guys to service the church. And now, if I do a Nehemiah podcast tomorrow, and I may have one from last year, it's like, Jesus is Nehemiah and he's just calling me to serve. Why did I ever think it was me? And you got to give some grace towards growth. I think as long as that growth is towards Jesus, not towards self or towards self-elevation. Yeah. I think I've gone the opposite way. I got a long way to go. I think I've gone the opposite way, away from me, more towards him.
I think that's something that's a lot more apparent when you are doing something like a podcast, or you're a preacher and your sermons are recorded, and there's always this growth process, at least that you hope you see. And so if you look back at old sermons or old podcasts and you don't like what you see, well, that means you've made some changes and you've grown. And that's the way I try and look at it. I remember I got to speak at the Florida College lectures a couple years ago, and the president of the college, John Weaver, came in and talked to me. And I've met him a few times through my work with the summer camps, but he mentioned that he'd actually heard me preach in Abilene when he was working at Abilene Christian College, and my brother was preaching down there, and I got to do a meeting, and I was in my early 20s, and it just kind of like, and he said that before I did my lecture, and it got in my head. I was like, oh man, well, if that's the Kyle he's heard, and how did I even get this opportunity to speak at lectures? And but I'm a different person than I was. And I think we can look at our old podcasts
but that's the thing is when someone visits it, they don't necessarily, if you're doing by searches and stuff, you don't necessarily see that it's been 3 to 6 years old. So sometimes everything that someone engages with online at that time is right now. It exists the way that you think of it. It's your perspective right now. And so but can you get in your head sometimes though, thinking like,
yeah,
is this evergreen, as we used to say in education? Is this going to be, can this live out there for forever? And I haven't known a preacher yet that has said that they didn't change their perspective on a scripture in 10 years. Everyone does it. So it's just a different media and a different kind of world that I'm curious if that's affected you at all or I
mean, there's a difference between deeper and different. If all of a sudden I believe something different than I believed before, then I would remove that thing. And I've had a couple of sermons where what I believe now is different than what I said or expressed. And so I took those down. But through this is just everyday life stuff. So it's just going to deepen and change. It is interesting that new podcast listeners, when they'll reach out, I have a new podcast listener, they'll say, I listened to the most recent one somebody sent me, and then I started back at the beginning. And I'm hitting that. I hear that a lot. So they start back at the beginning, and one person had listened to the first year and then met my daughter, and she's like, "You're supposed to be 5 years younger than this, and you just finished a swim meet or something." Like they're tracking it from behind. So that stuff's still there. People are going to listen to that, and you just have to decide. Yeah. Critics are going to be critics no matter what.
Sure.
But friends are friends, and they get it. They get the flow of it and the change of life, and hopefully we're becoming more like Christ, and we are giving more of the spotlight to him as we go along.
Has your motivation over time changed for doing the podcast in general?
Well, that's a question I had too. Yeah. Is what and maybe related to that is, how do you define it being a worthwhile endeavor? So like what's your metrics for that? And at what point do you think like, well, it's not, move on and do something else?
Oh man, it went through a bunch of cool cycles. Like at first it was just, I like to try things for about a year and then I give up on them. That's my thing. And I've changed that in my 40s through the podcast, through what I've learned by doing podcasts. So I thought at 40 or whatever I was, I'll just do this for a year. And so at first it was just a curiosity to try. And then people started listening. That's fun. That's fun when we got on like Apple New and Noteworthy or something for 8 weeks. And so there was growth. And the guy that I met, the baptism in Ohio, that guy just found it on Apple. He had no church affiliation. And so there was some growth. And then it grew a while. And then by the second year, I had sponsors. So all of a sudden I'm making some money, you know? I mean, it's a business at that point. And that was cool for a while. They were friends and we were really cool about it. We never made it businessy, but you know, for a few years it was like, hey, this is a little business that I'm doing. And that motivated. And then that kind of, I mean, it kept on for a while, but I forgot about it. You know, it never was. Then it wasn't about that at all anymore. And then I started to learn about the second or third year, I'd get a call from a guy and he'd go, my dad's not a Christian and he will not listen to sermons, but he listens to the podcast because it doesn't feel like he's being preached to. And then I would hear a story a few months later, same story, except after they got comfortable with the podcast, which feels just very everyday. Then my uncle or my daughter or my dad, then they went to Lindale and started listening to sermons. And then you get a story once a year where they obey the gospel and you're going, okay, wait a minute, you know, and that's still what it is now. I mean, I'm worn out. My ideas are probably retreads and the sponsorship thing has waned a lot. I don't even really engage that much. And, but I still get the email once every, you know, couple weeks going, you know, I remember one mom called me and said, my daughter is it bulimic? Is that right? Or, and she paces her dinner by the episodes. It takes her about an hour to eat. And her goal is to try to finish her dinner by, you know, 3 episodes. I'm like, man, you know, so I don't know, you get some emotional connection.
It's now a part of routine in life for people, which I'm sure.
And that's what it is for me now. It's just routine now. I'm just stubborn now.
Sure.
Now it's just routine.
Well, I mean, you just hit 2 things that, you know, first one was you talked about the sponsorship. So you talked about this is a personal work that you're doing, not necessarily a work of the church in Lindale. And so that's a little different. And I'm kind of curious as to you is, so we're doing this and we've done this as, I guess we only really knew of it as, hey, we're just going to do it for, you know, the church. And elders were really great about just saying, yeah, sounds good. Let's try that. Do you see any, you know, pros, cons, values of that kind of process of possibly doing this as a personal work versus a work for the church? Because there has been some thoughts or criticisms in talking to people about, you know, maybe our episodes or things, in the sense that you are basically, you know, a presentation of the church, you know, out there. Yeah. And there's a little pressure on that a little bit more than necessarily just my Facebook audience or my friends.
I'm not the most professionally behaved person.
We are not the most professionally behaved people. And so, and I've kind of had that then question, okay, well, would this work better as a personal work, you know? I'm just curious from your perspective. I think
it's cool you are all members here and you're doing it here at the building and it connects and you want your members, you know, you're really doing it probably even primarily for your members and then
primarily here.
It's in their family. I mean, that's really important. I think, you know, a preacher does attach to the church. And so what I do does in some ways reflect on the Lindale church. And I have to keep that in mind some. But look, the bus principle is always in play for preachers. You get on one, they put you on one, you get hit by one. Like you're not married to your church forever. You're you. So this is the thing you're doing for this church. And if Kyle moves away, another guy will sit in this seat. That's what this is.
Yes,
what I wanted to do.
Kyle.
Yeah. I mean, he would go and you would bring somebody else in. The new preacher would do it. But for me, I tell you what, I was in East Texas, like just starting out episode 1 with an instrumental jingle at the beginning. You know, I got some heat.
That's so I picked instrumental. I was saying, do you find a worship song? And it sounds kind of weird. I tried that a little bit. And then,
well, if you did some a cappella worship songs, he probably gets a whole different crowd.
A different thing.
Getting on your case
That's
about
what we should do. We should record an a cappella version of the intro jingle. It'll be us.
Just us?
Just us.
No one
well, Chris, you could join. What part do you want to sing?
Bass or nothing.
Yeah. No one wants to hear that, though.
But I try to define success in the same kinds of ways, too, is not necessarily looking for huge followings. You know, sounds like you were a little bit surprised by some of that. And like you said, the timing of COVID. And so I try not to let myself get discouraged if I'm not seeing these big picture metrics, but small things. And I think every preacher's got their stories of sermons are put up on YouTube. And I was emailed by someone like 200 miles away in a town where there's no churches, and just exchange emails over the course of 2 years. And she was baptized eventually. And, you know, so we've all got some good stories like that. And those are the kinds of things that really keep you going.
And we're men. Like my first year or two, I was tracking those numbers every week. It was all about, you know, you want to be successful in what you do. And that's all about growing up too. I mean, I don't think I've looked those. I couldn't even tell you for in the last year or two. But you go through that. You go through, how big, how strong, how good can it be? And then, all that becomes silly. And then you still get those little emails or those calls and you realize, you're just trying to, look, I didn't know a lot of people were going to, y'all want to get into preacher stuff. Like I didn't know a lot of people were going to listen. And I didn't know how people were going to react to that. And it hadn't been all awesome. Like when you have a reach, life's a little bit different. The way people react.
Exposure.
And in many days it'd be better to just, I think I'd get out of some hot water just by reducing the extension. But man, one person in Arkansas that gets encouraged tomorrow is worth the whatever that comes about. But that took a while to grow through too.
Yeah, for our economist here, that's the cost benefit analysis.
What's the ratio of criticism to encouragement for you?
I think it hit a weird spot a year or two ago because for the most part it's fine, a few years, but then it turns out like, let's say there's 10 churches around and maybe 50 people in each church are listening. And that can be hard for local preachers to accept.
Sure.
That there's a guy somewhere else that they're listening to. And then if the way I approach things a little bit different than that guy, which is just kind of naturally going to happen, now they might say we got a problem. I don't think we have a problem. I think Christians are pretty smart. They listen to a podcast guy. You take what you like, you dump the rest. The preacher preaches. You take what you like, you dump the rest.
Yeah.
Like it's actually not that big of a thing.
You're not preaching on Monday.
But preachers are a funny little group. But some of the criticism I get is warranted because I've not always said things well, and I've not always had my I've been emotional about things and all that. But in general with the podcast, I've always tried though not to be doctrinally controversial because it's never supposed to have been about that. It's just supposed to help somebody have a better week, and every once in a while one would sneak in. I remember doing like Spirit and Truth a few years ago, and I brought up a scenario or something and I kind of crossed that line into some doctrinal button pushing.
Yeah.
But I've tried not to do a whole lot of that with this.
Well, I think sometimes we pick episodes here to see if anyone's listening. Like our tattoos one that was really fun, and these two were arguing. These two flipped the script and argued from different
Kyle's
perspectives.
bigger than me, so I have to be careful.
But I usually try to find things too that's a little bit. Here's the thing: is I like the idea. We talk about a lot of things.
We like more application, I think, than doctrine.
Well, yeah,
if that's too subtle a distinction.
I like when we can talk about things that people are talking about outside this building that we just don't have a conversation about, or we don't have a sermon about.
We live in the gray, really, that gray area where people have questions and we're just not really sure, where does the Bible even talk about this kind of stuff? Those are the kinds of topics we like to delve into. And I think you do well to remember that not all formats are created equal. And I kind of agree about the not getting button pushing about doctrinal issues. I just think a one-sided podcast is probably not a good format. I like on difficult things like that. I like sit down face to face and just talk to someone. And I just think that's unbeatable when it comes to working through a difficult topic.
Well, it sounds like you have some clarity on what you're here to do on the inner circle, like maybe get questions from members or things that they want to know about that maybe don't preach perfectly, but could use 2 or 3 perspectives. I mean, that's a pretty cool thing if they know, well, that's what we're getting into, something that may not have a printed out final answer on the back end.
Yeah.
But you'll have information and perspective.
And sometimes we don't have conclusions. Sometimes we don't have. Sometimes. Okay.
Sometimes I get surprised by the conclusions I come to. Like on tattoos, I was surprised. Nate was a prodigal in his college years. I assumed he had a Chinese character tattooed on him somewhere that he would tell us about. And I grew up, born, raised, spanked in the Church of Christ, and I am unsullied by ink. But I came across as the pro tattoo guy in that episode, and that surprised me.
Yeah. Those are fun.
Are you like the drinker, like the person who's never drank, who thinks probably one drink's okay, and then you're in the room with 2 alcoholics who are like, no drinks are ever okay? Is that how that went down? Like the tattoo people are like, never again, and the non-tattoo guy's like, the little one won't hurt.
Kind of, but we're not bringing our wives into this conversation. Oh yeah, you see, yeah.
Was that post-marriage?
That was just post-marriage, yeah.
Maybe we should do a video episode of the tattoo
tried
discussion.
To bring our wives on here before, but they're not ready for that kind of exposure. We've seen the ESM grow over years, weekly episodes, books, daily episodes now. And I think I really enjoyed when you were doing videos and when we started to do videos, because I didn't put the picture, the face with the, and I love how you're doing it because you're not doing a massive edit. You're doing very simple, and I'm assuming that's your office at the building.
Yeah.
And that's nice, and it's very clean, and it kind of matches the quality of the podcasts and things too. Yeah. It's not like a Zoom call. I've seen those. And so I'm curious as to, was there a growth strategy, or just every year you kind of look at it and pivot and kind of want to do something different?
I'm going to have to. I'm way in over my head on this. So I started last fall writing the first daily Bible devotional, which is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And it needed a ton of edit work, and I didn't know what I was doing. So it turned out when I recorded it out loud in one take, I would catch all the mistakes.
Yeah.
So my brain would do that. So I thought, you know what? I'll go ahead and record that, and then I can put it out in 2 formats. That was not the original intent.
A lot of work, man. Yeah.
No. And at first, I didn't have a good computer in that room. So when I decided to do video as well, and this is just for 1 year, by the way, this will be done after December 31st. It's a 1-year deal. So then I would go in there, one room, and I would record my podcast. I would record it in audio, and then I would come in there and do it again in video. And hey, editing wise, that was terrific. But like wearing me out wise, I mean, the New Testament has 260 chapters, and I recorded 260 videos
twice.
About half of them twice until I went and got a better Mac and figured out how to get the sound quality pretty good. Now I record the podcast right there in that room as well. That's a 1-year project, but it helped. I like to try to be efficient. I thought, okay, efficient wise, it helps with the writing of the books to do the videos. So let's produce two things that help each other. And like I'm writing the Genesis, I'm going to go ahead and do Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and maybe keep going. I don't know, but I'm not no audio or video. I need it. It was too much.
And just take a picture of yourself and have AI do the whole video of you.
Whoa.
To your voice.
Just put the text in, let it go.
Just put in your audio, the actual audio that you recorded, and then a picture of you, and then we'll just make a video of you. It won't look weird at all.
If it looks anything like the Sora videos my kids send me of us, I'd be terrified.
Yeah. Pretty bad. Yeah. What has ESM taught you personally?
It's a lot like preaching. Some of the stuff I talked about this weekend, somebody walks up and they're like, man, that's exactly what I've been wrestling with. Mm-hmm. And that's, you're touching on, how did you know that? I'm like, how do I know? Like, our walks are common. 4 of us are on the same walk. And what I learned through ESM was from people who would reach out or talk to me. And I'm just sharing what's going on in my life and what I'm studying. And you're just not, I would tell anybody, like, you're not alone. That's why it's good if you want to express yourself in some way, and you can make it not about you, but just sort of be a part of your life. Man, there's a lot of people going through what you're going through. And what I learned most is I'm not alone.
Yeah.
I'm just not. There's not an episode I recorded where somebody came back and went like, that was so inaccessible and specific to you. And now it's like you've elevated. No. It's just honest life.
Some of the best feedback I think I've gotten of our work is when someone says, like, this episode, or I know in the first 10 minutes or 5 minutes if this is an episode for me, but they're still willing to listen to every single episode to start it, and I love the idea. It's like, assess whether or not you're enjoying this, but still tuning in, and I appreciate that. And then of course we'll have a handful of people that get mad when I don't edit it on time or something. So I have fallen into the trap of, okay, how many people do we have at this congregation? How many views do I have? How many?
I still joke.
People, come on.
I still joke on Sundays in Lindale. I'm preaching something. I go, "This is in the episode last week, so 3 of you guys know what I'm about to say." Like I still do that every week.
Yeah. We talk about our female viewers. We have 3. Well, we only have a handful, right? Our wives and mothers.
Well, my mother passed away, so it just went down. So there you go.
I didn't want to say that.
I realized after I brought it up, I was like, oh, man.
Maybe my sister's listening.
I'm sorry. Foot in mouth.
Well, in that, so
you know what really, just side point, what really got me was when we first started doing YouTube when I was in Utah, and I would track, I had a couple sermons that were like 10 to 12,000 views, and I was pretty excited about that, a couple thousand views. And they were on things like the apocryphal books and, things that you got to preach on every now and then, but they of course appeal to a certain audience out there. And then I check our YouTube channel from time to time and just look at who is top, which videos were top. And then all of a sudden, my buddy Randy preached a sermon filling in one time, he's a lay person, right? he's got like 35,000 views and counting on this. Like, how many times did your mom watch this, Randy? Or it was like on time management. And I'm like, I bet a bunch of businessmen in China watched this, like thinking it wasn't a Bible lesson or something. And that just bugged me.
Well, when you're talking about the initial like self-help, you mentioned that. I think that's why I connected with yours earlier on, because Nate and I have been in the world of education, and I was actually in a company that taught emotional intelligence and soft skills and all these other things. And then so a lot of our work too is also like professional development and helping people. And so I think it just hit at the right time, probably 19 through COVID, that I was listening to a lot of that stuff. And I think that I appreciated having a biblical perspective to align with all the other self-help books that I was listening to and the things that I was trying to be more of a professional on at work, and yet having a little balance of the grounding on the biblical side. So I think that's why I kind of connected with it, because you had like a niche there. People, there's lots of podcasts out there about scripture and about very focused, but a lot of times yours will come in to the perspective of just how to be a better person and just how to live and manage.
I suspect that gets to one of our earlier questions about the difference between us being more or less a function of this local church versus just something Kris does, though connected to his work as a preacher in Lindale. But I think that gives him a little more leeway. I don't know technically, but it just feels like it gives you a little more leeway to cover.
Yeah.
You've talked about like fitness and finances, and we've talked a little bit about finances, but it gives you a little freedom.
Nate tried to talk to us about fitness, but we rejected that straight now, right?
Well, I did have 2 sodas last night.
So I know.
Did you catch any flack, Kris, for bringing in self-help, like philosophy or ideas to the podcast?
No, a lot of that was the first half. So let's say it's been going on 7 years. A lot of that was more in the first half when I was really riding out all the stuff that I'd read. But when I brought on, what's his name? The guy who wrote The Miracle Morning.
Hal Elrod.
Yeah, Hal Elrod. When I got Hal to come on, like I got so many cool responses to that. And I mean, I got to talk to him a little bit about God and pray with him a little bit because I was trying to take his ideas and ask him how it connected to God. And and those days were just fun and freewheeling. Those first few years were just party. You combine the stuff. I had all these ideas that were just cooking in my head. And then after a few years, I was trying to figure out what is this thing, because then I do more sermon-y stuff, more mixed up stuff. And sometimes maybe that creates a little bit of mixed messaging. Like, what am I going to get this week? But, that's what was different. It wasn't a church thing. It was just me and what was on my mind. If you're not down with that, go listen to something else. If you're down with it, then, podcasting is very interesting because your sound, by the way, is really excellent. When you podcast and your sound is good and you're talking like Nate's listening in the car and it's like, Nate and I are best buddies. We know each other, but it's just me talking.
Oh, it's so funny, man. When I heard you talk on Friday night, right, for the first time in person, I was like, I know this guy. I listen to him every morning while I'm in my cold plunge. He doesn't know me, but I know him.
Do you get a lot of fanboys then?
They always, the guys who want to say something nice. You said it. Actually, this is so funny. The guys who want to say something nice, but they're dudes. They go, so I listen to your podcast,
it's all right.
A lot, but I always do it in like 1.5 speed, which is their way of going. Like, I'm not impressed with your voice or anything, but I just sort of like ramrod your content as fast as I can.
I like to,
that was not the intent, but I'm glad you got, some of the message.
No, it's because he lives life in the fast lane.
Well, cold plunge is what, 5 minutes? Is it 3 to 5?
Yeah, 3 to 5.
Well, I'm from Portland, where you're always trying to one up someone. Well, I knew this band before they were discovered, and I always like tell people I listened to Kris when he was back at East Side in Baytown, Texas, before. So I knew him before you all did. So
Kyle's a name dropper, though.
Yeah. Did I mention I spoke at Florida College Lectures 2 years ago?
Yeah. You also mentioned that you had a couple of sermons that got 10,000 to 12,000 views.
You want an autographed copy of the lectures?
Yeah,
I've never done that.
You've been doing this for 7 years. Do you fight the performative nature of this? Is it still sincere? Is it how do you keep it, where you
How do you expect him to answer that? Is it still sincere?
No, but I mean, like,
very insincere.
Okay, let me rephrase that. How do you keep it real?
Yeah.
How do you keep it sincere?
It feels more sincere now than ever before because the chasing, numbers is gone. The peak of the sponsorship stuff is gone in an amicable, good way. You know, it's like, and now it's probably just habit. It's kind of like building sermons or going to the gym or whatever. You just, you know, a discipline becomes a habit, and then a habit becomes an addiction, and then you got to discipline it again. And I feel like this has almost become like, I mean, addiction in a non, you know, detrimental way. It's just, that's what I'm going to do once a week. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to share some ideas. And I've used it selfishly about once a month if I want to polish up a future sermon. You know, I'm big on efficiency when things get full. And so they borrow from each other some. But
you say that a lot. You say I was working on the sermon.
You got to admit it a lot. But 7 years will be February, January, whatever. And I don't know. There is a little bit. I guess if there's something that's maybe not as awesomely sincere, it's that I just don't want to let people down. You know, like you sometimes you keep doing something because you just, you know, somebody will walk up and go, "Never stop doing that." And I'm like, "Never,
never."
I'm like,
that's a long time. Never.
Okay. You know, so there's a little bit of that, but that's okay.
Well, then what's next? Anything exciting you're looking forward to other than not doing video for Genesis?
No more recording daily Bible devotionals. They will be done. I'll keep doing the books for a while just because it's a fun little project, and I'm enjoying the chapters. I'm just enjoying studying the chapters. But you know, I was talking to a guy the other day. So you guys have a pretty good sized church here, and you have 2 ministers and some other workers. You know, our congregation has just me, and I've always liked that because I love to preach and teach, but I do so much public presenting, podcast stuff, daily Bible devotional stuff, and then all the sermons and classes, and you can't do it all. And so if you do a lot of that, there's things you're not doing, and there's some one-on-one local Lindale stuff that when I go talk to churches that have 2 or 3 preachers, and I'm kind of like, what do y'all do all day? You know, they're like, we visit more, we spend more. Now I will say at Lindale, now we're getting into shop a little bit on churches. The way a good thing we've done, because I just can't, is instead of teaching Bible studies, I just taught every 3 years, I taught the church how to teach Bible studies. And now like my mom's converted more people than I have. Like so I couldn't, this is too much. This public thing I'm having to do all week is too much. Yeah. So we taught the members to teach, which is 2 Timothy 2:2, or we helped the members learn how to preach. Or do studies. Like the eldership does more new member studies by a lot than I do. I'm like an emergency person, you know, crisis person. And I don't know that that's properly balanced, but you can only do so much. Yeah. And so I'm thinking about I'll keep doing the podcast next year and keep preaching. Yeah. But I travel quite a bit, and that's a chunk away from local work. I've been there 10 years. I really wish I had a little more time to invest locally in relationships. That's the goal next year, is to dial some of that back.
That's a great goal. Kris, thanks for talking shop here. If you would like to learn more about Kris's podcast, you know where to find it. We've already mentioned it a handful of times. Also, make sure that you check out all the lessons from this weekend.
Like and subscribe so that we can get 10 to 12,000 views like Kyle's sermon.
Yeah. Thank you. Also, the host of the Exhorter that's my podcast now. Our podcast.
It starts with E.
The ESCM. Yeah, I was trying to look at that earlier.
Yeah, John would really like to talk about his podcast today.
You know what I meant. So rude. Okay. But also make sure that you check out all the lessons from this weekend.
Yep.
Okay.
Keep that.
We're good.
Keep the yep.
Yep. Well, he usually says the stupid subscribe.
Oh, do you?
Stuff.
Oh, hey,
no, I don't care
guys,
about that. That's
John wants me to say something.
I don't.
He wants me to say like and subscribe, and I want you to do that too. Like and subscribe.
Okay. All right.
So that we can get. Stop it.
Okay. Well, that's part of the
you
next.
You are so lying. There's no way.
Just go.
Because they're so similar. Well, and when I say that, I mean just the format.
Yeah. Yeah. You get used to it.
You do them in one take?
No, that's the secret though. Like it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes of content with gobs of tiny micro edits. Yeah. Like if I say something dumb, I stop. And I'll have notes written around. But every once in a while, I'll take a sermon and do a podcast. Well, then I'm kind of using my sermon outline. But the other day was the first time I went and built like an outline for something that wasn't already a sermon.
Is it because you wanted to get it right?
It was something I was a little less comfortable with, so I did online research and I pulled in points that were not my own, and I wanted to do honor to those points. I wanted to word them properly, but normally, you just life gets in the way. You go to the airport, meet somebody, you go home and record about it.
Well, that's funny. We will come in sometimes with half-baked ideas. Sometimes they're fully baked ideas, but we don't generally share a lot about it. So then we have that kind of natural
I like that.
feel about it, and we really don't know where you're going with this. That does get us into some trouble because we'll take it in a direction that Kyle's
It's
not
like Michael
intending it to
Scott.
go.
Sometimes I start a sentence and I don't really know where I'm going when I begin, but
Yeah.
But dude, you're doing like a 60% edit, so
I'm doing a lot of
You
edit,
can't do
but
a-
because
they trust you. You can't do a whole lot wrong.
well, it is I put a lot of trust in him, but I also put a lot of work on him because I don't have to edit it, so it's not my problem.
but I enjoy I think I love more the fact that it feels more genuine and conversational than I've listened to a lot of multi-person biblical podcasts, and we used to do these kind of tech talks, and they sound just a little
Too scripted.
It's just a different type of podcast. Like I don't compare them because one is a little bit more like a lesson. The other one is we're just trying to model biblical conversation for people that don't have it throughout their lives.
So it's really interesting listening to you talk about it because I get calls, a few times a year. I want to start a podcast, what I need to do.
Sure.
And one of my first questions is, how many guys are going to do this thing? If you're monologuing, it's got to be so clean. It has to feel like I'm just talking to you in the car, a straight 18 minutes of pure fire with no repeats and no ums. You have to edit. You can't video it because you have to edit it.
Yeah.
And then if you want to do 2 guys or 3 or 4, that's a totally different, like you do want to speak freely. This should feel like a friendship, and there needs to be some looseness to it. And of course, when you're interviewing someone, that's a different animal.
It is different. And I'd say, so I'm coming from studio and videography and that technical side of video production. So I knew right off the bat I didn't want to do a 3-camera, 3-person video edit because it would never get out there. We've tried once or twice, and it took me like 2 months to actually
They never get edited.
They never get edited. It's just too much work. And so we kind of settled with this feel, and I can kind of get one of these done in an afternoon and try
You
to
got
get
a
it out
great
the next
setup
week,
over
so.
here. You certainly make me look like a beginner.
No, I think it just points out how much work and effort and tech it takes for John to make us sound
good.
passable.
Yeah,
I will
that's right.
I will concede to that one.